Good afternoon and welcome to IVMF VetNet webinars. My name is Elvis Avdic and I am Post-Program Support Service Advisor here at IVMF. I work with our IVMF alumni, assisting them with resources and connections to help them start or grow their business ventures or careers. So today our webinar is on Tillman Scholar Program here at Syracuse University. So if you are a veteran or active service member or military spouse that is attending or interested in attending Syracuse University, then you're in the right place because today we'll talk a little more about Tillman scholarship programs that you should really consider applying for it in upcoming year. So we'll be learning more about Tillman Scholar Program, but before we go, I just want to let you all know that this session is being recorded and everybody that have for this session will get a recorded session link later today with a survey attached. So please fill out the survey, let us know how we did and what other future VetNet webinars you would like to see. To go over some ground rules, make sure all of our guest speakers and participants, if you're not speaking, please make sure your microphone is muted. And if you have any questions for our guest speakers, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can type in a chat box and we'll make sure to answer it for you. So Biff, I just want to say welcome to our guest speakers. With us today, we have Lynn Parker, the Director of Center for Fellowship and Scholarship Advising here at Syracuse University. She helps students with national scholarship opportunities that interest their goals and interests, but also she helps them with application material for those scholarships. With us, we have Katie Pistone. She's our 2018 Tillman Scholar, and she's a U.S. Navy spouse, and she's doing her PhD in biomedical engineering here at Syracuse University. And our final guest speaker today is Catherine Quartero, our 2019 Tillman Scholar and U.S. Marine Corps veteran. She's doing her executive Masters of Public Administrations here at Syracuse University at Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs. So welcome, ladies, and I'm just going to give you each like around a minute. Introduce yourselves, tell us a little more about you, and tell us your connection to Tillman. Lynn, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I'm Lynn Parker, and as Elvis said, I direct the Center for Fellowship and Scholarship Advising, or CFSA, here at Syracuse, and I help students with national scholarships, and that includes the Tillman Scholarship. So my office is here to help students as they're preparing application materials and thinking about how to present their case for becoming a Tillman Scholar. So we're a resource for students. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. Katie?
Hi, yeah, so I'm Katie Pistone. I'm a 2018 Tillman Scholar, and like Elvis mentioned, I'm a PhD student in the School of Engineering and Bioengineering. The Tillman Scholarship has really changed my life in a lot of ways that we can get into. I can't say enough good things about it. And when I applied, I did work with Lynn in the scholarship office. So I'm happy to field any questions anybody has at all.
Thank you. Catherine?
Hi, I am Katie. We're calling me Catherine today, but I am the 2019 Scholar for Syracuse University, and like Katie said, the Tillman Scholarship has just made a really big impact on my life. I'm still not used to it a year later. I also used Lynn on my second try, so I'm happy to field questions about trying again and the option to reapply to the Tillman Scholarship, which is pretty great. Yeah, so I'm excited to see questions and hope I can help.
Thank you. So let's start our discussion. So my first question for you ladies is, can you tell us a little more about Tillman Scholar Program, their mission? Who is Pat Tillman?
So Pat Tillman was a football player at Arizona State University and then for the Arizona Cardinals, and he left his NFL career to enlist in the Army during the war in Afghanistan, and he was killed there. And the scholarship was founded in his name. And the qualities that the Tillman Scholarship looks for in Tillman scholars, which are outstanding scholarship, academic scholarship, service beyond self, and humble leadership, and a potential to have an impact in the world. Those are the qualities that are associated with Pat Tillman, and that's what the fellowship recognizes. And what the fellowship provides are academic scholarships that can be applied to educational expenses, also leadership training and professional development, and a national network. And I'm sure Katie can speak to what that's been like for them.
Thank you, Joylyn. So, Katie, can you tell us a little bit more about like what benefits does the Tillman Scholar provides to to Tillman scholars?
You want me to go first, Katie? Okay. So, I mean, in addition to financial support, you're part of a community that you interact with in person every summer at the Pat Tillman Leadership Summit. And then they also have ways to stay engaged throughout the year. So you'll make connections there, and you kind of build this little mini network, and they have different events. So last fall, they have something called Tillman Honors, and I was able to give a talk at that. So they have different events throughout the year. We're both attending Pat's Run that they have every spring, which will be really fun. And they also have what's called a professional development fund available that I am actually going to use this year. I hadn't used in the past, but I'm using it for a class to help me develop my computer programming skills more. So that's a little bit outside of my typical academic training, but will be really helpful for me and my goals. So there's an unending kind of limit to what you can get out of the community once you're a part of it.
Yeah. I guess the other thing I could add is that they do have regional summits. They have regional captains. So those are people in kind of hubs throughout the country that host events just to get together, service projects. And I think they do some leadership type stuff as well. So that's just kind of an extension of that network. So even in between the leadership summits that happen every summer, you can get together with other scholars and do some good and just connect and recharge with your fellow scholars, because it's really an awesome experience just to get together with them.
So, ladies, what are some of your like favorite professional opportunities that you had with Tillman, or that you participate in the events? Like, what are some of your favorites?
I haven't personally done too many yet beyond the leadership summit, so that was my very first kind of introduction to the foundation and to my fellow scholars, and that was just a really intense few days. So it was a really intimidating experience, but I learned so much from my fellow scholars, and there were entrepreneurial presentations about what people have been doing throughout the year, research. So that was just really interesting, and I'm really, really excited for next year's summit. And I've been looking for opportunities to kind of use that fund like Katie's going to. So yeah, I think that those are really great opportunities.
Yeah, and I guess just because I've been there 1 year longer, every time you go back to these things, you kind of recognize a few more faces and make more connections with more people. So, I've been able to connect with some different scholars, some that are going through some similar things as me and getting a PhD, and like just talking to them, and you never know where that leads later. So it's just kind of you're in it forever, not just for till you graduate, and that just kind of continues to grow. So my favorite part has just been kind of getting to know some of the other scholars and letting that kind of continue.
Thank you, ladies. And it looks like the Tillman Scholar program is definitely a benefits in terms of like educational expenses, professional networking, and things like that. So it's great. So let's talk about who is eligible to apply for Tillman Scholar program.
Anybody who is enrolled full-time at a university or is planning that for the next academic year. So you apply in February to be a Tillman Scholar the following academic year. So if you're planning to be enrolled full-time for 2020-21, you'd be eligible to apply this year. And the other eligibility requirement is that the candidate's either a veteran, current active duty person who's also full-time enrolled at a U.S. college or university, or a spouse of a veteran or active duty service member. So those are the requirements. You can be in any field, in any discipline, and you can be an undergraduate, you can be in graduate school. The award will just fund one degree. So if you're an undergraduate and you're planning to go to graduate school and you receive the Tillman Scholarship as an undergraduate, the funding would last through your undergraduate degree.
Thank you, Joylyn. So when does the application, opens, and when is the deadline to apply?
It opened February 1st. It's open. It's an easy thing to remember. It's open February. It opens February 1st, and this year you get one extra day because it's a leap year, so it closes February 29th.
So we have a question from one of our participants. He says, from Josh, he said, like a post 9/11 combat veteran or active duty veterans, are they eligible as well?
Yeah, so they're veterans. So yeah, active duty or veterans, absolutely.
Great. So can you apply to Tillman even if you're not currently enrolled in Syracuse University? Or if you're planning to enroll or just looking to
maybe
attend?
we can just talk briefly about the partner university role. So you can apply to Tillman if you're going to be enrolled in any full-time university program next year, Syracuse or elsewhere. If you are applying to Syracuse, or you're already enrolled and plan to be enrolled again next year, then you're eligible to apply as part of our university partner program, which means we're one of 15 universities that's a partner university with the Pat Tillman Foundation. So that means we work with the Pat Tillman Foundation to put forward candidates to them from Syracuse University. So you would be in that pool. That said, if you're currently at Syracuse and you plan to go to graduate school somewhere else, you can still apply, but that's called the at-large application pool, but you should still apply to the Tillman Award.
Thank you, Julian. So how does somebody start an application to Tillman?
Maybe one of the Katies can weigh in on this since they've done it.
You just go to pattillmanfoundation.org and they have different options so that if you're interested in kind of donating or just understanding the mission, they have separate pages, but you just start an application. It gives you a chance to see all of the other previous scholars and learn about what the foundation's doing in general, and then so that helps when you're applying. But it's a pretty straightforward application, lays out exactly what you need to do and what they need from you. And yeah, it gives you a link to send to your recommenders, I think, or you put in their information and then you're good to go.
It's also a good idea if you're planning to apply to start that application right away. Like there's no reason to not, even if you're not ready to write the essays, just open it and take a look at it, like move through it, see what all the components are and make a plan for getting that done. So if you think you're going to apply, I would encourage students to do that immediately, because you can just start it and put your name and email address in, and then at least you've got something in the portal and you can take a look at the application. So I would say don't wait to just open it and get it started. You can just save it as an empty application until you're ready to complete all the pieces of it, but there's no reason to delay opening it if you're planning an application.
Thank you, ladies. We have a question from Carla. She's asking, is there a difference in acceptance for partner universities? As in, do they have preference?
So the difference is the partner universities are all guaranteed a Tillman Scholar. So someone from Syracuse's pool of applicants will be selected as a Tillman Scholar. So I think the odds are generally a little better. The at-large pool is pretty big because that's the whole rest of the country and all the other universities that aren't partner universities. So the odds are better as if you're applying through a partner university program.
Thank you. So let's go back to the application. So what are some of the components that are required in application? Okay.
So, oh, go ahead.
I mean, the biggest hurdle is I think there's 2 400-word essays, and don't be fooled by the length of those. I think that's a trap that I fell into my first time and a lot of people fall into. Those essays will require a lot of thought and effort, but I'm pretty sure it was just a resume, kind of, for me, it was proof of service, like a DD-214. Transcripts, kind of similar to most scholarship applications.
If you're a spouse, also, you need your spouse's DD-214 and all of their service information. So just as a heads up. There's also, I would say there's a lot of like blank text boxes also that seem just kind of like erroneous. Like, what are your skills? Don't just like sloppily put that in. Put thought into every part of the application because it is part of it. And there's also a letter of recommendation that's important too.
Yeah, a character recommendation, and that it's a form that you put in the email address of the person you want to be your character recommendation, and the portal will kick that person the form and give them the instructions to fill it in. But you should definitely talk to your recommender so that they know that's coming. Don't just put somebody's email in and they'll randomly get this email. You want to make sure the person is on board to recommend you. And that application, I think Katie Q mentioned there's a resume, and that's another thing you want to put some thought into. Think about how your resume is presenting you and how it might echo or buttress some of the things you're saying in your essays. There may be things you want to emphasize more on the resume than you would if you were like applying for a different kind of job or something. So take a look at your resume before you upload it. And then there's a financial worksheet. And one thing to keep in mind, the award is completely merit-based. Once they've selected the scholars, then they look at the financial worksheet and determine how they're going to distribute the funds for the scholarship. So the financial piece is not part of the selection process, but it is important because once they've selected the scholars, they then need to take a look at the financials as they make the award amounts.
Thank you. And Jolene, you were mentioning a selection process. Can you tell us a little more about what criteria does Tillman selectors look when they select scholars?
So they're really clear about this on the website, and it really is like as they're reviewing applications, all reviewers use a rubric, and they are following their criteria. So they're very transparent about that. And the criteria are service. Is the applicant dedicated to service beyond self? So do you have clear ideas about how you're going to be of service to the world and how you're going to do things that benefit people other than yourself? Scholarship. Is the applicant a lifelong learner who's passionate about intellectual growth? Does the applicant have a clear academic plan and career goals in line with their academic plan? So they want to know that you're currently enrolled in a degree program that you're succeeding in and that you're passionate about and that makes sense for your long-term goals. Humble leadership is the third criterion. And they're asking, is the applicant selflessly committed to leading by example? Do you have a track record of leadership potential and humility? And then finally, potential for impact. Is the applicant determined to unite others and advance ideas that improve the world? Does the applicant have a passion to create positive change? So I think what they're looking for are future leaders and people who have a pretty clear sense of where they're headed and a goal for how their training and what they care about doing is going to change the world. And I think you guys have met many Tillman scholars, so you have a sense that can mean a lot of things. It can look like a lot of different things. There's a real wide range of people who fit within these criteria.
Thank you. So I have a question for Katie's as well. You mentioned a lot about the essay, the 400 word essay. So can you tell us a little more, like what are some tips to make your essay stand out? Or do you have any tips for our other applicants?
If you don't have a Jolynn, find a Jolynn. Um, we talked a lot about how the essays need to connect my story to kind of how I'm going to make an impact, how I will make an impact. And we really had to phrase that differently as well. I will make an impact instead of I hope to make an impact. So it's just connecting what you've done, what you're doing, and what you hope to do, and kind of being really assertive in the belief that you will do what you say you're going to do. So even if you aren't sure how or when or what you're going to, where you're going to end up, just have confidence in that and express that you're express your worth, I guess. Really dig down deep and think about what you want to do and why. So yeah, I guess.
Mm. I think also remember that no two Tillman scholars are the same. So don't try to make yourself just sound like someone that you see on their website, because it's about your own story, and about the impact going forward. So obviously everyone has to have a record of service and weave that in, but it's not being ranked on who has the best past service. So just keeping that in mind, and really making the most out of every word, and really thinking it through, and working with someone if you can.
I'd also say being specific. So both specific about your future goals and specific about things you've already done, like tell specific stories. Sometimes you only have 400 words, so people feel like I'm going to say something really general and big because it'll encompass everything. But that doesn't really give reviewers much of a sense of you as an authentic person, and you need to figure out a way to make yourself come across in those 400 words. So an important way to do that is being specific.
Yeah, I have one more thing going back to what Katie said. I've already gotten a few comments from people who are interested that say, well, I don't have a Medal of Honor, or I'm not Johnny Kim, the Navy SEAL Dr. Astronaut, so why should I bother? So I think that, like Katie said, there are so many people and so many backgrounds and so many goals that the scholars have, that I don't think you should compare yourself to anybody really. Kind of take inspiration and read the scholar quotes and see what they're saying about themselves, and see what you can pull from your own story and your own goals. So
And I think along with that, the Tillman Foundation itself is really committed to having the class of scholars represent a lot of different kinds of people doing different things. They don't want all astronaut doctors, if it were possible to find a class of astronaut doctors. They want people doing, so they're really open to that, and they want to hear your story and your goals. And yeah, that can look very different.
Yeah. And if you feel like you're not qualified, you're probably exactly the type of person that they're looking for, because they all Tillman scholars feel like that. Because humble leadership is part of what they're looking for, emphasis on the word humble. So don't be scared, just try.
And the only way you can ensure that you won't get it is not to apply. So you should give it a shot.
Thank you, Liz. You speak a lot about goals and like plans for future impact. How important is that state in your application? To be clear on it.
I think that in terms of knowing generally what you want to do, I think you have to have an idea of at least the area of impact that you would like to make. You don't have to have, I think, a specific I've been accepted to this job, or I've taken a position that'll help that. You have to have just kind of know what you want. For me, Jolynn and I kind of worked on what would my dream job be in this space, and really connecting it to the programs and the steps that I've taken since getting out of the military to make that happen. So I think that you have to have at least a general area, and Jolyn can comment more, but you have to have a general area of impact. You can't just say I'm gonna change the world. You have to kind of say at least what space you're gonna change the world in.
And I think have some demonstrated trajectory that's taking you in that direction. So if you said, I'm going to change the world as a nurse, but you're currently doing a studio art program and it's not clear, like you haven't taken any science classes, like that's going to be a question for them. So they want to see that you're taking steps toward accomplishing what the, where to getting to the point where you can make a difference in the arena where you want to make a difference. That said, I'd also say, the people are applying while they're in graduate school or college, and the point of those programs are usually to introduce you to new things, and your goals will change. And I think the Tillman Foundation is aware of that. And also, like, if you become a Tillman Scholar, like as Katie saying, you meet all these people, you get all kinds of new ideas. So they don't really want people to just be static, but for the purposes of the application, you do need to be able to articulate a direction you're headed. So I guess I'd just say it's not like it's a contract and they expect you to do exactly what you say you're going to do, but you do need to have an idea of how you want to make a difference and an ambitious goal for doing that.
So we have a question from Josh. Are you required to apply for that scholarship before starting a degree, or can a current student apply?
Definitely a current student can apply.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the majority of Tillman Scholars. I mean, you can apply as you're entering a program, or you can apply while you're in one, definitely. As long as you're going to be enrolled next year.
Full time.
Full time.
Thank you, ladies. Also, in terms of like applications, if somebody applied like last year and they were not selected, can they reapply again, or?
Yes, I applied for the Tillman Scholarship in 2018 and I didn't get it. So I reapplied. I think that a lot of scholars do end up doing that. So don't give up. You can use your experience and familiarity with the application to kind of put forth something better. And I think that the foundation will even offer feedback if you want that on your application. So that's really helpful as well. I know somebody that talked to JD with the program, and he gave him feedback on the application, which is really awesome. So definitely you can reapply, and I would encourage that. As long as you're going to be in school the next year, just keep trying.
Thank you. Also,
It
we
looks
have a
like
question.
my video cut out, but can you guys still hear me?
Just a second.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have another question from Carla. She said you guys mentioned when you go back to Tillman sponsored events yearly. Is that offered when you reapply each year, or is it available for recipients to attend after they accepted the initial time?
So that you don't have to reapply for the scholarship every year. They know your expected graduation date, and you do have to do some end of semester reporting to them that you are in good academic standing, and they collect information, but you don't have to reapply to go back. And even after you graduate, they still open up a lot of events to those. There was a woman that 10 years was a Tillman Scholar in 2010, the first class. They had several of them at the Leadership Summit this year.
Thank you. So speaking about like acceptance and things like that, when you get notified that you actually are recipient of the award?
Yeah.
When?
When or?
Oh, it's I think I found out in May.
Yeah.
And then they made the official announcement. Like, you can't really tell everybody that would put it on social media and stuff, so they'll tell you, but they do kind of the official rollout in June. So the process, the applications close in March, and then there's kind of the follow-on interviews for finalists, and then the selection was made.
Yeah,
Mid-May.
so the process is there's a finalist, like there's the initial round of interviews, and then some people are selected as finalists, or sorry, there's the initial round of application, and then they select finalists, and then the Tillman Foundation will interview those finalists, and then they make selections after that. So you would have sort of rounds of knowing that you're still, like, you're notified if you're not selected as a finalist, so you know where you are at that point. And then if you're a finalist, you prepare for an interview, you do an interview, and then you get notified after that.
Yep.
Thank you, ladies. So it looks like we're coming to the out of our time. So I just want to like ask last time to Katie's, you know, what are some of the best parts of being, you know, Tillman Scholar? And do you guys have any final advice for our, you know, future Tillman Scholars, applicants, veterans, military spouses, and things like that?
I can go if
Okay.
you want. Yeah. So for me, I know it's kind of cheesy, but it's real. But that it was kind of it was a really big confidence boost that somebody else believed in me to do the things that I thought that I could do, and that it kind of empowers me going forward, and being connected to the legacy of someone like Pat Tillman. And once you learn more about him and his traits of like lifelong learning and other things, is really empowering beyond just when you get the awards. So I think the best part for me is kind of just the you know, the belief or the validation and empowerment going forward.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's a really humbling, like shocking thing when I was told, and it's really hard to get used to, especially when you do go and there are some incredibly high caliber people that are Tillman scholars. It's very intimidating, but like Katie said, it's also very validating, even hearing from these people who have done so many things and are already doing so many other things, to make an impact when they say, "Oh, that's really interesting." I think, and it was validating in the sense that it showed me, yeah, you might be on to something. You might be on the right track as goals and the programs and the education and seeing where I wanted to make a difference. So yeah, very validating, very empowering, intimidating, but yeah.
Thank you, ladies. So you guys have any last, you know, advice in regards to application process for our future, you know, applicants?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, keep
Don't-
trying.
Also, don't wait till the last minute to start your application. Just open one. If you're going to apply, open it today and take a look at it, and then get started on the essays. And there are resources here on campus to help you. So reach out. We can't help if you don't reach out, but reach out.
Yeah, I had to explain to Lynn why student veterans especially won't ask for help. That's very much a military thing. Don't ask for help, but do ask your. I mean, a resource like the SIPSA is obviously the best choice because they're professionals and they know. But have people read your essays. Ask them if it makes sense, if it's following your goals, and do make sure that the letter of recommendation, that person knows who you are and how you're going to make an impact, and probably about the Tillman Foundation as well. You want to make sure that they're speaking to how you're going to embody what they're looking for and embody Pat's legacy. So that's a really big thing as well that I would consider and make sure you're taking the time to do.
Thank you. So we're gonna open up the floor for any questions from our audience. We already have questions from Carla. She says, for application feedback, can that be sent to Joylyn prior to submittal, if not Syracuse student, or JD from Tillman?
You definitely don't want to send your applications to the Tillman Foundation. So they are the selectors of the scholarship. They don't help people put this scholarship together. My office here at Syracuse can help. So I would encourage people to make an appointment. I can't be very helpful if you just email me like the day before or a couple hours before submittal with a draft. There's little I can do, and it's hard for me to structure my time to do that. But if you want to make an appointment, I'm happy to meet with you, and then we'll go over the drafts. And I think both Katie's will attest we did multiple drafts of their essays, and that's really the process that works best. And we can only do that when people start ahead of time. So
yeah,
started on it.
And the feedback from JD in the program is after the fact. So after they've made a decision on your application, I don't know the time frame, but that's after the fact. So definitely don't send it to them before.
So does anybody have any more questions? If not, then I just want to say thank you all very much.
Yeah. Thank you for having us, Elvis.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for
Thank
hosting.
you.
Oh, someone's talking.
We have
What's the call to action from here? What's the first step? Now that we know we want to do it, what's the first step?
Josh posted a link to the Pat Tillman Foundation, so definitely go to the website first. And today's the 13th, so open your application right now, and do take a look. I would say that if you have a squared away resume and have your military records available, jump on those essays first and foremost. Because those are going to take you the most time by far, I think, to get where you want them to be. So go to the website, open the application, and take a look.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
ladies.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.